Here we go. This is it. Another episode of After Dark, niche influential films of the 20th century. And today we're not going to be talking about a movie that is particularly influential, but it is a niche film. And the filmmaker that helmed it, this movie gave birth to his career, certainly is influential. He is probably my favorite working director today, and that director is Park Chan-wook. He is of South Korean descent. You certainly don't hear that and think it's a German name. The movie is The Moon is the Sun's Dream. And that is a 1992 feature. It's pretty by the numbers. It is a gangster flick, but it's also a love story. These two things go together. Like, oh jeez, oh God. Like Umberto D and his dog. Anyway, we're going to be talking about The Moon is the Sun's Dream. And listen, there's a lot of characters in this movie. I can't pronounce any of their names. I'll be probably canceled for racism if I even try to sound out some of these South Korean names.
형, 이거 어디서 찍었어? 끝이야! 제가 아저씨를 위해 할 수 있는 일은 이것뿐이에요.
넌 내 돈하고 기집을 가지고 사. 재판이 열리기 전에 그 입을 막아야 돼.
증인을 죽이라고요?
넌 이제 친 거야.
겁나니?
It's about a guy, and the guy falls in love with a gangster's girlfriend. She's always much younger. It's always a very, what Twitter finds inappropriate these days is like a 39 to 45-year-old man dating a 26-year-old. And that's this kind of situation. He's certainly probably above the age of 48. Now, granted, it's the early 90s, right? Maybe he started shooting in the 80s. We don't know. It takes a while to get your first feature off the ground. This girl can't be older than 25 years old. It's kind of a dodgy looking situation. Look, people can mind their own business. It's not really of anyone's interest to get involved in that sort of affair, but it does look visually grotesque. And this is something, listen, and this will, look, living in New York City, you notice certain trends, right, with the old, right? There's certainly a trend of older white guys who can't get enough of that 18 to 21-year-old college student, probably from Vietnam, maybe she's from Korea. I'm not talking about like 90 Day Fiance shit. I'm saying like a woman who is not looking to swallow a seed to fund her family. Okay? That's just not the situation. There's just something about the 18 to, we'll say, like 27-year-old Asian broad who loves sucking a wrinkly dick. And that's really the ugly truth behind cute, feminine Asian faces, right? So every time you see like like the girl in this movie, I guess. She probably sucked off like a 60-year-old dude at one point. People don't want to talk about this. I'll talk about it. What do I got to lose? I'm a man who's settled in his ways. I'm in my 30s now. What are you going to teach me that I did something bad or said something bad? Good luck. So this movie I think it has some worth. And granted, I'm a foreigner to the Korean people. I went to Korea one time. I had a blast. You know why? Because I was the most threatening man in the entire country. Nobody's over 5'4" in Korea. So you got a guy like me, and I have a healthy American diet, and I've grown to an appropriate proportion, and I have Korean women around me. Makes me look like a powerful man. Makes me look like an authoritative man. We're gonna have to pause this video real quick because one of my lights just died. Jesus Christ. I think that one's probably more valuable than this one. This one, I'm just green-faced now. Probably look like a ghoul. Now it's a Halloween special all of a sudden. That's not the kind of episode I'm looking to conduct today. I apologize for the low budget, but listen, we need to get more patrons so I can actually bring Hans on this sofa with me and we can do more episodes. So we're just going to take a quick break. Here's a pitch. Here's a pitch for a chain of restaurants I would like to fund. And I don't want to go to GoFundMe for this. We had a very successful campaign with the Mass State Lottery movie, not the Massachusetts State Lottery. Mass means massive. Through PayPal. So here we go. This is going to be my new chain of restaurants. Enjoy. When you walk into a Chuck E. Cheese these days, it's no different than stepping through the front door of a WeWork building. It's just gray walls. There's no iconography. The mouse is gone. It makes people feel uncomfortable. You feel like you're at Boston Dynamics and they have those robot dogs roaming around the premises. Just as I've been a visionary in YouTube and in filmmaking and in podcasting, I'm looking to enter the restaurant business, but I want to take it from an unconventional angle that nobody has even thought about just yet. And this is really why I need $1,000. I know what people like and people dislike. People distrust automation. People don't like robots. What people instinctively want in their hearts right now, more than anything else, is to feel at home. They want to go to a Pizza Hut and think their mom is cooking that pizza. Old Auntie Jan is cooking that pizza, and she's gonna burn the crust a little bit. And it's gonna be a little, you're gonna hurt your teeth. You might actually lose one of your bottom teeth if you try to bite through that bottom crust, because she just didn't remember to put oil on the pan. I want to carve out a niche in the restaurant industry and bring back something that nobody even forgot that we lost. Every time you get ice in your beverage, it's gonna be clear. You're gonna get yourself a good clear ice cube. Who the hell wants that? I don't want to be able to see through my ice cubes. A lot of people don't know this, but the reason why your ice cubes at home are so cloudy is because there's bacteria in them. It's going to be kind of like a bar, right? We're not going to do alcoholic beverages. That's going to be a whole pain in the ass. When people get a glass and they see that the glass is just full of white ice cubes, they're going to feel at home. They're going to feel like their old Uncle Johnny is he just sneezed on the ice cube tray before putting it in the freezer. Some people, they come from a background where, the father of the house, he's kind of a drunk. He doesn't have these beverages where he's putting ice cubes in them. He's not doing a whiskey on the rocks. He's not doing that. So he sees the ice cube tray and he's just rubbing his hand over it, the bare cubes, and whatever was at work that day that he was holding on to just got on those cubes. But that's really what makes it feel personal when you have yourself that cold glass of milk and you see the speckles in the ice. That's the vibe I want to give out as a restaurateur. That these ice cubes, these are your family's ice cubes. So this is what people are taking into their bodies. They are taking my bacteria into them. Nobody has really had this kind of forward thinking. Everybody has been thinking, well, how do we neutralize this? How do we sterilize this? But the fact is, maybe COVID wouldn't even be a thing if more people were having ice cubes that were licked by other people first. I need $1,000. I'm getting sued by the Massachusetts Lottery. I need fucking money, goddammit. Yeah, so anyway, we're talking about The Moon is the Sun's Dream. And listen, there's really not a whole lot to say about it. It's Korea in the early 90s. It looks cool in that regard. But really, everything important about it relates directly to the man who helmed the film, who directed the film. That's Park Chan-wook. Now, he would have a film called Threesome in the mid-90s. And that's almost impossible to find online. This one is very difficult to find. As a matter of fact, it's not even officially available with English subtitles, I believe, anywhere. They did broadcast it once in the UK on Channel 4, one of their very uncreative titled networks. And that had English subtitles. Other than that, It has never seen the light of day. They did issue a Blu-ray of it in 2015 or 2016, and there were no English subtitles on there. How I got my copy and how I watched the film, and now I also believe there's a version that is up on YouTube as well, is that there was a Hong Kong, or there was a distributor, a bootleg distributor out of Hong Kong that added English subtitles to the Blu-ray, sold them on eBay for about $35 a pop. And what you get for that is a 1080p version of The Moon is a Sun's Dream. It is seemingly the exact rip that had been released in Korea, but with the English subtitles added. And it is a visually beautiful film. It feels very of the era. It kind of reminded me in moments of being in my aunt's living room. She had like tiger print on the sofa and Patrick Nagel paintings on the wall. That's the kind of environment that you're going to be walking into. I have to tell you, if you go to Korea, it's essentially the same. And that's actually something I like about developed Asia, is it feels like the United States, but 20 years behind. So right now, parts of Korea feel quite like America in 2005 or so. Maybe a little before that. Maybe more like 2001. Without the terrorism, although there were a lot of Muslims. I went through one part called Iriwan. Well, I was walking to Iriwan. I guess this was technically part of it. There were some Muslim areas that felt very not Korean. Maybe don't walk around those areas at night if you're a woman. And you know why. Park Chan-wook would then do a film called JSA. And JSA feels like a very high-budget episode of JAG. You remember JAG that was on CBS, the family network? JSA, it's got some interesting cinematography at times. The thing about JSA that I don't like is that there's white actors in it. I do get a little social justice-y. I get a little lefty, a little liberally. Whenever I see a white person in a Korean film, I start to feel viscerally disgusted. Especially if it is in the hands of a filmmaker who is less than a Park Chan-wook or even a Bong Joon-ho, who, he got so much acclaim. He's like the go-to Korean director for Westerners now because of Parasite winning Best Picture. I don't feel that's deserved. I think Park Chan-wook is the guy. I think he's the greatest Korean director there's ever been. And for some reason, Bong Joon-ho just managed to slide in there and steal the limelight. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, maybe that lack of attention will only strengthen Park Chan-wook. It seems like that is usually the case. If anything, whenever there's a Best Picture winner, for example, Birdman is a great movie. It was a great movie before winning Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It wins Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Nobody's really going back to Birdman now, and that's not even the fault of the movie. Moonlight, another example. Great film. Very enjoyable movie. Shot in a very interesting manner. Are people going back to Moonlight now that it's won Best Picture? Because maybe it's kind of overrated? They aren't. Nobody cares about Moonlight. So maybe that'll be the case with Bong Joon-ho as a director. Because listen, he's got a spottier record than Park Chan-wook. Anytime he tries to dabble in doing an international film like Snowpiercer, we're gonna combine English actors and American actors, and we're gonna throw Korean actors in there. There's gonna be a French actor. Sucks. You're getting too big for your britches. It is not personal then, right? And that's ultimately, I think, what you want from any sort of film is you want it to feel personal. If it gets too big, it starts to feel blockbustery in a modern blockbuster sort of way, which is repellent to somebody like me. You have something like Snowpiercer and Okja and all these movies where he's trying to work with American actors or English actors, and they wind up failing. With JSA, it's limited to, there's a couple of liaisons who happen to speak English, and the Korean actress, she also speaks English. Everybody's acting poorly during those scenes, because Koreans, similar to what I said, where I'm watching these Korean actors, I don't know if they're performing well or not, but that's kind of the luxury of being somebody who is not from that country. and watching a piece of art from there is I don't really know if someone is acting poorly or not. I can estimate if someone looks comfortable or not, but I don't know if their performance is really up to snuff the same way that a natural Korean speaker or somebody who understands the language better than I do would. So similar to that, the reverse of that occurs every single time. And this happens also with Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, which is Park Chan-wook's third film in the Vengeance trilogy, because Old Boy follows JSA. But there is a movie between them, which is Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. And that's not as good of a, in the Vengeance trilogy of Mr. Vengeance, Old Boy, Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, the Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance start is probably the weakest. It's certainly well made. It's got plenty of twists and turns. Bolsters a good performance from its lead. It doesn't nail its landing quite like Old Boy does, or certainly like Sympathy for Lady Vengeance does, because both of those movies have quite remarkable third acts. He is a director who certainly deserves a lot more acclaim in the United States. Many people only know him from Old Boy, or they know him now from The Handmaiden, which was his last feature film that he directed, and that was in 2016, was released by Amazon Studios. I got to see that at Sunshine Cinemas in New York City before they closed down. It's something to be able to see, and this happened before I moved to New York, it's something to be able to see a foreign director's work on the big screen as opposed to getting a DVD in the mail from Amazon, and it's clearly a bootleg, and the subtitles are rough. But listen, that's actually part of the enjoyment of the experience that I had growing up, getting involved in foreign films. Is you would order a copy of Old Boy off Amazon.com, and it would have a printed up paper sleeve that someone did from their home printer, and the DVD. It wouldn't even have the proper DVD logo on it. It would be clearly just printed from some sort of machine that somebody did. Maybe they sold copies on the New York City subway or wherever in China. It would always come from these very seedy locations. And you never really knew if the subtitles were accurate or not. Oftentimes, things wouldn't even make sense, right? And that would just be like a mistranslation. Is somebody using a word that has two different meanings the wrong way. The Moon is the Sun's Dream. It's still hard to find. It might still be on YouTube right now. I would recommend that if it is available. Koreans right now are probably the most technically proficient filmmakers. That's kind of a more popular opinion now because of Parasite than it was when I started saying it in 2015 or 2016. There's a lot of people that would be on board with that these days than I think they would before it became part of pop culture, mainstream pop culture. But the fact remains the same, is that American filmmakers are cowards. American filmmakers are fat, lazy fucks who have nothing interesting to say. They're too concerned with having their money pulled out from under them or their luxury gig. And I don't respect any individual that works on a movie set just to work on a movie set, because, well, a day on a movie set is better than a day working at Walmart. Maybe that might be true, but you're making a piece of art, unless you're working on a Lifetime movie, in which case you're probably a soulless cretin. But to serve as a function in something that manipulates that form for the negative, it's very difficult for me to have any sort of positive opinion about that type of person. Maybe because I am, what people love to say these days is that, LowRes Wonder Bread, he's the only true artist now. It's him, it's Kanye, it's Paul Schrader, and I mean, who else is there? There's no one else. There's nobody else. You're stuck with me. Mass Day Lottery 2022, coming soon. Check it out. It's got Korean people in it. It's got the Korean language in it. It's going to be a great time at the cinema. Check that out. Stop watching this shit. Anyway, that's been After Dark for this week. Thank you for joining me. I think we're going to talk about another movie, another spicy film on the next episode. I'll see you then. The only time that sex is ever acceptable in television shows these days is if there's a female character or maybe a trans character who's a sex worker, because then they're taking back the power. You know, what is sex? It's a man forcing his thick hog into a recipient over and over for his personal pleasure. We can't have it that way. Absolutely not. So sex is actually a financial exchange, right? The woman has control of what's going into her. And she's not going to regret it because she's going to get $100 in cold hard cash in her hand at the end of it. She's an entrepreneur. That's what sex is right now in 2021.